Okay, in today's short video I'm going to show you how to store rice in buckets. Of course this can go for beans or any other dry food. So we will need the buckets, the rice, the oxygen absorbers, and the Mylar bags and an iron. These are leftover coffee bags. They're made of Mylar when you buy them in the store. You can save them if you're interested in putting things in there later, like a long-term storage for oatmeal maybe, or rice, or beans.
Good morning, folks. In here we have a bunch of these small little Mylar coffee bags. Save the empty bags because we're going to put rice and beans inside of them. And in doing that, you have smaller portions, so when you open up your main bucket, the rest of the stuff won't go bad. All the oxygen has been sucked out of them. When you open one, you can actually hear the psh noise it makes. When we do that again, psh noise it makes. But the neat thing about it is, it actually still smells a little bit like coffee. So you can actually have if you run out of coffee and you're a coffee junkie like me that just absolutely loves coffee, you can imagine, you can say, oh, I can almost smell that coffee. Well, you can, because it's going to be in your beans and in your rice now, because we don't wash them out. So the only thing that was in there was coffee. It ain't going to hurt you. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. Those are just a couple things. Nancy's going to be bagging in Mylar, some big bags of rice and putting them in the 5-gallon buckets. We use these Gamma Seal lids. Everything I've seen about them except for one video said they were good. The one video I seen said that somewhere along there's a seam, and on that seam it may be compromised as far as air goes. So what we do is we put them in Mylar, drop the oxygen absorbers inside the Mylar, and then put them in the bucket. Then we'll drop another one or two in the bucket. So that'll draw that rubber seal down on the top of that bucket and make sure. The outer lid, and then there's the inner lid. But I may be wrong.
No, you're right. That's the inner lid.
No, I am right, because yeah. So the buckets themselves are food grade buckets, and you can get them at Lowe's also. The buckets are around $3. The lids are what's pricey. The lids run, I think they're $7 a piece. Now you can also buy the old-fashioned lids there with just a rubber seal on them, and you hit them down with a wooden mallet or a rubber mallet to seal them. That's your choice. I like the Gamma lids because you can open them and then close them a lot easier. Different size option absorbers. Nancy's going to go over all that with you. She's going to show you the process. Oh, she's even got a mason jar out here. That's neat. So anyway, that's it for me today.
I have these smaller size Mylar bags that I'm going to use first. It looks like about 3 will fit in here. So I'm just positioning them, and I'm going to fill them up. Okay, now these are filled up, and I left 3 or 4 inches on the top of each one. This is the twisty top that goes on here. And what happens is you have to put that round base on your bucket with a mallet. So here's one where the round base is on it. So that means that this will just go on at the end and just close. And we'll do that later. So this is a 2-piece system here. So next step, we're going to iron close the tops of these and put oxygen absorbers in them at the very end before I seal up at the last inch. Okay, in order to iron these shut, you want to position the bag alongside a thick book, because you're going to flap it over and push a warm iron right here.
When you look at a label or on a bag of every Osmocote Controls fertilizer, you find that the longevity of the fertilizer that's actually inside the bag is clearly stated with a color-coded icon that can range from 2 to 3 months to 14 to 16 months. The purpose of these longevity is to help you, the grower, choose the Osmocote longevity which best correlates with the growth cycle of the crop you're growing. Now, one important point I want you to keep in mind.
Okay, so you can see that it's kind of firm. It's been ironed starting from here, and I stop about here. because I'm going to slip some oxygen absorbers inside here and then iron the rest at the last step. Okay, here's your chart for how many oxygen absorbers you need in a 5-gallon bucket. If you look down to the center left column, it says 1 gallon needs 300 cc's for rice and beans, and then another 100 extra if you're doing cereals, flour, things like that. And then 500 cc's per gallon for pasta and oatmeal and things like that. So we're concerned with the 300 cc's per 1 gallon because we're doing rice right now. And by the way, it says sugar up there, but I read that you do not put oxygen absorbers in sugar or salt. But anyway, this is our chart, so we're going to go by that. Okay, you can get oxygen absorbers pretty much anywhere. I noticed these that I bought do not have how many cc's are on the packets. So fortunately, I did keep the cover, and it says 200 cc's per packet. So I'll just do the math. And the minute you open them, they only have a 5-minute life. So I have my mason jar ready, and I'm going to go ahead and just transfer them just before I need them. So in the meantime, I have my bag ready, and I'm going to do a step that's optional. I'm going to go ahead and suck the air out of the bag with this machine. And it is optional if you're using oxygen absorbers, but it just helps to get all the air out. Okay, this next step is a little tricky. You have to have everything kind of set up to go, go, go. I have my bag partially sealed. I'm going to quickly slip in my oxygen absorbers. Then I'm going to pull out some air and hold it. And then I'll iron the last little bit. The technique that I use is I put in my tube for the air vacuum seal, and then I just hold it like this, and I suck all the air out of it. And I have to use 2 hands, so I'm going to shut this off and do it. Of course, first I'm going to put the oxygen absorbers in here. Now I'm just going to show you that as you're drawing the air out of the badge, you'll see little bumps, and that shows you that the air is being pulled out, and then the corners will start crimping up a little bit. And you want to leave your finger right here, and you'll quickly be pulling out your line and then ironing the rest down. Okay, my first bag is done. You might want to put a towel over your book because sometimes the iron will stick to what's on your book. And a lot of this is technique. You're going to have to juggle things and line things up and put things in. But in any case, that's the basic process. So I'm going to do another one, and I'll recap everything in just a second. Okay, 2 things I want to point out. When you're using the iron, be very careful that the tip does not puncture inside the groove there, because it's real easy to open your bag up and ruin a bag. I just basically just wait until I see the bags all sucked in, and then I pull out the line and just push my finger over that real fast to hold it in, and then I iron it. Okay, now I'm going to quickly show you how to just do one large bag. It's a little oversized for this 5-gallon bucket, but I'm just going to seal it down low enough to where the whole thing will fit in there. I'm going to finish filling it up, then I'm going to crease it over on top of a book, and then I'll iron it, and I'll use the rim here to hold the book. And then I'll press it down, leave an opening, get out the air after I put the oxygen absorbers in, and then with the book under here I'll finish sealing it off. Okay, before I go too much further, I noticed that this bucket didn't have the rim on it of the 2-part lid, so I did top it off a little, but before I continue I'm going to make sure this bottom part of the lid on first. Make sure I didn't overfill the rice. Okay, I put the lid on. The rice amount is good. And I put the book under there, and I'm going to press it down and gently iron it. Shift the book over and keep ironing it to enough room to put in oxygen absorbers. Okay, ready for the oxygen absorbers. Remember, I need 300 per gallon. These are only 200 each, so you have to do the math. 7 of these would give me 1,400. So I guess I'll put 8 in. Okay, it's doing pretty good, but just so you know that if you don't get it perfectly tight, the oxygen absorbers will create that vacuum later. Okay, it's the next morning, and if you can see, these have pulled in really nicely, so I know that my oxygen absorbers are done well. And today I need to just check the rest of them and then label everything. And then I'm going to throw in oxygen absorbers in the bucket right before I put the lid on. So let me start that. And I also wanted to show you some bags that were done a few years ago that are still in good shape. And these didn't go in buckets because I just didn't have any buckets, but as you can see, they'll still store like this. The problem is that these can rip really easily with a small, sharp object puncturing them. So if you're going to do this, store them very carefully and check them to make sure they stay tight. Okay, everything's labeled, and I threw a few oxygen absorbers in each bucket, and I'm going to go ahead and put the lids on right away. Okay, all finished. They're labeled with the date and initials. Just check that the depth of your lid on the inside will rest in open space as you put them on. And let's go ahead now and recap on. Okay, we're going to review the 5 things we need basically are 1, rice and buckets, or beans, whatever. 2, Mylar bags. Make sure you plan to leave a 2 to 3 inch space on the top to iron. 3, oxygen absorbers, 300 cc's to a gallon bag. Number 4, vacuum sealing abilities with that tube to suck air out, but that is optional. And number 5 is an iron. And the keys to remember, just for advice, is make sure you use low heat, watch for punctures with that iron, and look for the bags to draw in to prove that your seal is good and the oxygen absorbers are working. And the last one is develop your own technique. As you can see, I used a book, and some people actually experiment with a curling iron to hold the bag on their lap and crimp the top. So you have to develop your own technique and lay it out so that it's comfortable for you and you get your job done. Thank you from Family Tree Farm.